Hello again, Justin here, and in our last few videos of listening and reading, planning for student understanding, we've gone over a pretty solid framework, this PDP structure for teaching listening and reading skills. And now I'm going to look at something a little different that comes up as a question within PDP. So, a question I get asked with so many activities in these classes, how do I check all the answers? How do we check the responses for all of these activities? Because checking student activities and receptive skills activities takes so much time that we see a lot of time in these classes being spent on, now, Juan, please give us the answer number one. Now, Cecilia, please read answer number two. And we wind up spending so much time checking answers, we really don't have much time for listening and reading. So, I do not have all of the solutions to the problems that may come up in this area, but I'd like to just look at a few suggestions that we have for you. So, the first one is to always plan how you will check answers. And I think this is a really important one. I'll give you an example. If you remember in one of the PDP classes that we've shared with you, one of the activities early in the class about the news program was that while the students listen, they will count how many stories there are on the program. Now, when I planned that activity, I was thinking about not wanting to spend time checking answers. So that one is very easy. The correct answer is 8. And I can just tell students that and move on very quickly. Another tip that I have for checking answers in receptive skills classes is not to do it one by one with the teacher in the middle. Because if I'm standing in the middle saying, now Esteban, do answer number one. Now Teresa, do answer number two. It just takes so long. So, for example, if you remember in the beginning of one of our other classes that we looked at, we had students responding to true or false questions. Now, I could spend a lot of time going number one is false, number two is true, or I could just go ahead and share my screen like this. Problem solved. And the answers are shared that quickly. So that is another idea for how you can share the answers with the students in a very quick and concise way. Now, another thing to have in mind is that not every answer has to be checked. And I think of the earlier class that we looked at where when the students were reading, they had to fill in a graphic organizer to describe the personalities and the situation of the characters. Now, I think a graphic organizer is a great way to show understanding, but I don't really have to correct all the answers in any detail for that. It's something that students are doing for themselves, so I really don't have to do anything with this one. And then some questions don't even have correct or incorrect answers. If there's no correct answer or no incorrect answer, then I don't have to correct it. And I think of on this, I think of the one at the end of the Edgar Allan Poe short story where they had to respond to open questions about the relationship between the main characters. That's a good activity that shows deep understanding, but because these are kind of opinion or subjective questions, we really don't need to go into any detail in the answers for them. So, those are just some quick ideas on how to correct answers in a listening or reading class in ways that still give you plenty of time for listening and reading because these are ways that are very efficient. And that's what I encourage you to keep in mind when you're planning how to check answers in your listening and reading classes. Plan for being very, very efficient with time. Thank you very much.